Welcome to the Iron Edge. I got a guest that I've known for a long time on today, none other than the Texas Stoneman, Travis Ortmayer. Travis, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, brother. And we have known each other shit going on 15, 16 years now.
Yeah, it's a
Something.
while. It's a while. I think it was shit. Yeah, it would have been 2011 in Wingate. Yeah,
Well, that's
so
when
it's
we met.
15,
That's
16
when we
years.
met.
Yeah.
But these people at home know you as this respectable business, successful business owner. I
Yeah.
remember you as a little kid asking a bunch of fucking questions.
Well, I remember like being like all over the forums, like all over Marundi Muscle
Yep.
and Facebook and all that sort of stuff, trying to figure out strongman.
That's what it was, man. It was before Facebook had anything. It was Marundi
Oh
Muscle,
God,
strength
yeah.
discussion, I think the
Yep.
anvil. Yeah.
Oh shit, the anvil, man. I forgot about the anvil.
Yeah.
Damn. But that's when it was like accessible. I feel like it's it's different these days, you know? Like it's different. Like I don't know, it's different to an extent. Maybe like social media, like Instagram, you can still interact somewhat. But like back in the day, like, who would have thought you were sitting typing on a forum to yourself or Jesse or
Yeah.
Ostland and these sort of guys, you know?
Yeah. It's the social media has grown the interactions, but they've distanced again
Yes.
because the forum was just like one to one. This was it
Hmm.
was an actual forum where people, got together and talked about this shit.
Shit,
It was,
I don't, kids these days probably don't even know what a forum is anymore.
it's the precursor to Reddit. Reddit is similar to a
Yeah.
forum, but it's
Yep.
kind of like the evolution of it.
Yeah, you're right there. All right, so I got one question to start this off with you. So obviously you've got a lot of titles. You've got the coach, the strongman, friend, and all that sort of stuff. But who's Travis? Like who's Travis today?
Oh, that's goddamn. Come out freaking
Start it
swinging.
hard.
Okay.
Start it out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question, man. Because I'm still trying to figure it out. So I'm at that point in life where you're trying to figure out where exactly you fit. Um, okay, let me bring this in. So I'm at the crossroads where I still think I'm an athlete and I still want to
Hmm.
compete really, really freaking bad. But I've had several setbacks that
Yeah.
would suggest maybe I'm nearing my end of that road. But I don't know, something in me still aches. It's like Rocky
Mm.
Six, where he says he's still got shit in the basement. That's where I'm
Yeah.
at. I still got some stuff in the basement, and I'm not done. So I'm just kind of biding my time while I get all the other ducks in a row. 'Cause, the Travis today is. I got a few businesses that I run now. I've got, my coaching business. We've got the peptide website, Max
Hmm.
Performance, the number 4u.com. Um, I recommend going to the Cellular Advantage line for anybody listening. It's the wholesale line. But then we got that, and then John Anderson and I have started like a peptide academy, and it's
Okay.
basically like a TV station, and we got a bunch of different shows. So he and I have a
Mm.
podcast. I have my own kind of master class, and then I do another like do's and don'ts show, and so we're filling that up right now. We got a ton of freaking information, but
Yeah.
that has kept me ridiculously busy because I'm going over everything that I learned in college about anatomy and physiology and how shit works in the
Mm.
body, and I'm having to expand upon it exponentially because
Yeah.
it's so much, and it's almost overwhelming because the more I learn, the more I realize I don't have a damn clue what I'm doing. You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, that's life, though. Realistically, how many times do we go through that in life?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the,
absolutely.
that's the story of life, really.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man.
So with the crossroads, like, what do you feel? I mean, because obviously, like, you were a fucking stud athlete, when it comes to strongman. Um, And even rolling it back, like, what was your background as a child before we get into all the strongman and everything? Like, what kind of kid were you? Like, where did strongman come into the equation and all that sort of stuff?
Well, as a kid, I was pretty busy outdoors.
Mm.
I was outside all the time. My mom was one of those that would lock the door and say, "See you at sunset," or when the street lights come on.
Yep.
And I always knew what time dinner was, just innately. So I always showed up just in time for dinner. That's just sixth sense that I had. But strongman came in later. I actually started working out when I was 11 because
Okay.
I I was bullied relentlessly. I moved from Southern California I was 10, almost 11, to South Georgia, and then started sixth grade in South Georgia. And I was kind of a fat kid. I still had a rat
Mm.
tail, a little Southern California rat tail.
Okay.
And I was bullied just to death. It was awful. The white kids would bully me, and then the black kids hated me because I was white. And I didn't know that was new to me. I had no
Yeah.
idea. And so I think now this is where I think I've always had somebody kind of over my shoulder, some kind of guide watching out for me because I've been steered in the right direction in a lot of places in a lot of ways in my life. And instead of letting this boil over and become self-destructive, I took
Mm.
that energy and I just put it into something useful. I didn't know I was
Yeah.
doing it. I just decided I wanted a weight bench. So I mowed a bunch of lawns to save up money, got a weight bench, and then I didn't realize they didn't sell the weights with it. So my mom bought the weights. This is a Walmart Vitamaster 1700. One of those, the little ones with the uprights like
Yep.
this far apart and a
Yep.
little shitty bar. I didn't even have a bar. We got the dumbbell set. So I took my mom's broom out of the kitchen
Okay.
and I sawed the end off to make my barbell. And then when she came looking for her broom, I pretended like I didn't know. I didn't think that went through very well, but yeah, I was 11 years old. Um, but that's where it started. I wanted to be Conan the Barbarian. I wanted to be like Arnold.
Mm.
I wanted to look bigger,
Yeah.
larger than life. I didn't want people picking on me anymore. So every day after school, I'd go in my garage. It was actually this little screened in patio on the side of the garage. It was like a fish
Okay.
and game
Yeah.
cleaning room for the guy that we bought the house from. He was a big hunter. So I had this whole space for myself and
Yeah.
just gradually filled it up with more and more stuff. And then continued that through high school. I always fought for a spot in the garage to keep all my weights.
Mm.
And so every day after school, it was kind of funny because I got in a lot of trouble in high school. I was kind of an energetic kid and misunderstood, we'll say.
Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, it was just, just out doing stuff. But it was only on the days that I wasn't working out that I got in trouble because all the days that I was training, I was too busy. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's like if I could have had a 7-day-a-week training program, I'd have been in perfect shape that
You'd
whole
be
time. I
great.
never would have
Yeah.
been arrested, but no, it worked out otherwise. And then,
So where? Yeah.
we'll
So
go
where did
ahead.
Texas come in? I was just saying, where did Texas come in?
Okay, so we moved from South Georgia to Atlanta, north of Atlanta, when I was halfway through eighth grade. So I spent sixth,
Okay.
seventh, and half of eighth in Podunk, South Georgia, which was great because I had a lot of family there. So like on the weekends or holidays or summer, it was awesome. But when I had to go to school, it was
Yeah.
a nightmare. Anyway, high school was a place called Lawrenceville, Georgia, about an hour, 45 minutes north of Atlanta. And
Okay.
once I graduated, like the day I graduated, I sat out in the sun for 7 freaking hours while they called out 1,000 freaking names, walk across the stage. The whole side of my face was sunburned because of
Oh my God, dude.
But as soon as we were done, my parents put me in the car and we started going to Texas because they had already moved there. They moved
Okay.
there 6 months before I did, and they let me stay with a friend and his family for the last 6 months of high school. So, and I got all of them into fitness. Do you remember the EAS Body for Life challenge back in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
2000
Yeah.
era? So I
Yeah.
got them all set up in this shit.
Oh shit.
The dad became one of their top He's like a top 100 finisher. He got really far. He like had a huge overhaul
Really?
of his whole.
That's
Lost like
wild.
50 pounds. Started gaining weight, muscle. Anyway, the day I graduated, we started driving to Houston. And that's why I ended up going to college, and that's where I ended up meeting Marshall White, who got me into
Yeah.
strongman. And yeah, that's the rest is history. So August 2nd, 2002 was that first competition, and I had this respectable life path picked out. You know, I was biotechnology, I was academic awards, honors credit, I was, dean's list, and all my teachers were like, "This guy's awesome." And then strongman came into my life, and it was a sharp
It's
left turn
so
another
funny
direction.
because literally my next question was, if Stroma hadn't come around, where do you think you'd be? That's
I'd
wild.
probably be working for Satan himself in the biotech
Yeah.
pharmaceutical world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
I
again,
would have probably fought that somewhat, but
oh
that's
yeah.
where I was headed.
So you met Marshall, who again was an incredible athlete himself, and then Strowman takes over. And I've heard the
Oh,
story
yeah.
of Marshall told you to come, and then you ended up like wiping the floor with Marshall and all that sort of stuff. Am I right in saying that? That was a story, at least.
Yeah. He talked me into doing a powerlifting meet, and we both bombed on the squats. And we thought at that point that meant you didn't get to finish. We didn't know that it meant you weren't going to get a total, but you could still bench and deadlift. So we
Yeah.
left, and we're freaking all dejected, beat up, sore about it. We spent all this money and time trying to get there. And so powerlifting kind of left a bad taste. And then he came to me one day and said, "I'm going to do Texas Strongest Man." And I remember looking at him like those guys on TV. What are you, crazy? We'll never be that strong. But nevertheless, he signed up, and I went with him to help him out because I'm his training partner. And then the promoter,
Yeah.
a guy named Chad Smith, talked me into it the night before. And while he said talking me into it, as soon as I said, "Yeah, why not? I'll do it," Marshall looked up from the form he was filling out, and he says, "Man, I'm glad you're signing up because at least now I know I won't take last." That changed me, man. That day changed me. It was a combination of that. And he took last the next day. I took fifth, beat him on every event. But I had so much fun at that contest. I still get kind of like worked up about it because it was the most fun I'd ever had doing anything my entire life, hands
Wow.
down. And it changed me. Like for the next 6 months afterward, every single night, I would wake up with the farmer's handles like in my hands. I would feel the stones against my forearm, ripping the skin off. I could smell the tacky. Every freaking night, I was obsessed. And I thought, I'm going to World's Strongest Man. That's that. I'm going. I'm going to win it. There's nothing going to stop me. And like those guys on TV, I got that strong.
Yeah.
Went to 8 world championships.
Dude. So obviously that was where it started. You rose through the ranks pretty fucking quick.
Looking back, yeah, I think so.
At least it felt that way, looking in,
Yeah. My first show was 02. 03 was when I started actually training for it. My first one was like April that year. Went to nationals.
Okay.
Kind of got my ass handed to me. I was 12th overall at nationals. It was my first time at a show that big, and I made a couple little mistakes. It cost a bunch of points. So I knew that I could win next year. And 2004, I made it a point to go to as many competitions as far around the country as I could because I wanted to see everybody who was competing. And I got to know all the guys, and I got to know where I needed to improve. And I went to nationals and absolutely whipped their asses. I remember Josh Bryant, jailhouse strength. He was a stud at the time. And to be fair, he didn't do a whole lot of strongman, but he was like, one of the first amateurs pulling over 800 at the time. And everybody was touting him to win it. So I just used that as fuel. Every freaking day I went into the gym, I'd put his name up and I'd be like, no, I had this thing that I would do before a contest where I would write out the names and I would write
Yeah.
destroy across the top of it. And I put that with, I've got one of those over here. I could probably pull it out. I wonder if that's it right there. Oh, look at that. See, can you see that?
I can see it.
There's one right
Damn.
there, man.
That's
wild. On my scrapbook.
Dude.
But that's what I would do, man. Every contest, I write that out and just use it as fuel. And I went and I took third on the first event and then won every single event after that. There was no catching me.
Which show was it where you had the car deadlift with the X5 and everyone was zeroing it? And then you came out and hit like 6 or something like that.
That was St. Patty's Day, South Carolina,
Okay.
2006. Okay. It was the St. Patty's Festival. One of the guys that was in that had tested that exact setup. And I think what may have happened, is they either used a slightly different model that may have had a more beefed up suspension, or they had a full gas tank. Because all of a sudden, nobody could move it. And then it was weighed out. It was like 1,200 pounds, something like that.
That's nuts.
But that was everybody just 0, 0, 0, 0. And it was like, in my head, I know I'm good at side handle. So I knew I was going to do that. But I also had Jeff Dolan, John Anderson, and Jesse Marundi after me. So I thought maybe I was just going to be the first guy to pull a rep, and then they're all going to pull some reps.
Yeah.
I was sitting in 4th place overall at the time. So I went out and I hammered three reps, and that third one felt like it was going to break me in half. I mean, the first one felt good, the second one felt heavy, and the third one had me kind of rolled forward, and I couldn't breathe. I was like, oh, shit. It got heavy quick. But the other guys, nobody pulled a rep. So that launched me into first place, and nobody could touch me after that.
I remember seeing that video online and just being like, wow, that's something else.
It was a good day for me, man.
Yeah. So, with strongman, obviously, with the growth, with the rise, you went from Texas Strongest to nationals, and then, relatively quickly becoming one of the best in America, one of the best in the world. You traveled the world. I mean, how was that for you? How was it living that life?
Oh, it was a whirlwind at the time. It was, because when you're in that space, all you're focused on is the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah.
And then worlds. And I got to get ready for this. I got my pro card in 04 and then got thrown into the Pan American Championships for IFSA the next year. And I was a qualifier for Worlds. And I took second, beat out all the other Americans except Pfister. And then that put me into Worlds. So it was like, all I could see was that next show. And looking back, there's a couple things that I would do differently. And I think one action would take care of both. Journal. Write down the experience. Even if it's just a couple of quick notes. Just write down where I went, what I did, what I learned, what I thought, how I felt. That's it. Just a quick little blurb, because it's enough to help you recall more of the specifics. And when you've I've done like 110 shows or something like that. And there was years that I did 18 to 20 shows. So I'm like every 3 weeks on average gone.
Yeah.
And there was some I did 5 in a row. One in America, one in Europe, one in America, back in Europe, and then back in America. By the time I got through with that 4th show, I couldn't remember where I was. I was actually in an airport trying to listen to the languages to figure out which country I was in. And I heard French, I heard English, I heard American English, I heard German. Turns out I was in friggin' Switzerland. So I was like, that's all the different languages. I couldn't figure it out, man. But yeah, it became such a blur, that I think writing it down would have made me slow down just enough to reflect on what I had done, and then maybe appreciate the accomplishments just a little bit more. That's where I think coaches really come in handy. Coaches who have been there really come in handy, because these guys that, I'm not the only one who's done that. That's happened to a lot of these guys, most of these guys at the top. They get picked up and then swept into the current, and
Hmm.
it's probably the same for them. I mean, if we pulled Laws on or Nick Best or
Oh yeah,
any
yeah.
of these guys, they'd probably say pretty much the same thing.
I
And it
remember
just
like saying that, like the journaling, like now that you've mentioned that, I'm like, man, I sort of wish I did that. I wish I kept track of just, some of the like the experiences it shows. Like, and I remember stuff, but it would be
yeah,
nice to have some of that, like more in depth memories.
yeah, yeah. I started doing it when I came back to the sport. I've always kept a training
Mm.
journal. So I've got
Yeah.
a journal. I found my box of old journals. I started in May of 1997 with my first
Damn.
training journal. I've got them all the way through. I now, when I came back, I just brought that with me because I started buying the good kind, like the leather bound,
Yeah.
durable. It's like $30, but it lasts for 4 years. So I just
Yeah.
packed those in my bag, and they could take a beating, so they're fine traveling. And
Mm.
just start writing little things about how I felt going into it, especially in the first years. Like, how did I feel looking at everybody? Because it was kind of weird coming back because they're looking at me like I'm an
I
old
bet it
veteran. I'm
was.
feeling like an amateur again.
Yeah.
It was weird. Um, yeah, it's been cool to look at those. And then over the last, what's it been, like 7, 8 years now that I've been competing again. Um, well, not the last year. I've done one
Yeah.
since 2024, but um, yeah, it just seeing the difference in what it is I take note of, because that's something
Mm.
that changes over time. What you think is important at a show.
100%. Yes.
Yeah, all of my previous ones were, what did I lift? How many reps did I get? Who did I beat?
Yeah.
How did I do overall? What can I be
Hmm.
better at? Which is awesome. Debrief. But now it's, how did I feel during this?
Mm.
Who did I enjoy talking to? Where were the connections
Yeah.
made? What was that? And that it's just a totally
The
different.
journaling, yeah, like the journaling stuff is something that is very interesting to me. It's not something I ever did, and I just started it recently. That I bought, like one of those little like leather bound things. I think it's got like 180 pages. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. The reason I bought it's just my truck. It doesn't come out the truck, and I bought it that I'm writing letters or notes to my son in it. So when anything happens in like in life or something with him or whatever. So I was like, that's sort of cool because then it makes you sit there and be like, okay, you sit and you think and what's actually important. And I was like, okay, if I've
Yeah.
got 180 pages, I have 10 pages a year, and then he gets it on his 18th birthday type of thing. That's the
That's
plan.
that's actually a really cool idea. I started
Yeah,
doing
I
something like
saw.
that a few years ago for mine.
Yeah, I saw it on Instagram. Like a dad gave the journal to his son, like at his wedding type of thing. He's like, "There's nothing big. It's just like moments and stuff that like I thought of and things that happen." I was like, "That's a really cool idea." And my wife was like, "What's in it?" I was like, "Doesn't matter what's in it. It's not for you. It's not for anyone but him. It's for him, and that's it. It's his eyes only." And I think
and
that's sort of like that connection's cool.
and you kind of hit the nail on the head with it. It's nothing major. It's just little
Yeah,
moments, little
no,
things. That's what people I think get caught up. I get caught up for sure. I
yes,
want to make it this big lesson and like write it in
mm-hmm.
novel format. And it's really just put the notes in, because otherwise,
Yeah,
if you're always trying to be perfect, you'll never start. It's more
100%.
important to just, done is better than perfect.
Well, Sarah, our videographer for Cerberus, has a saying, and she says, "Do a shitty job, because a shitty job's better than not doing it at all." And I was like,
Yep, there
"Huh,
you
that's
go.
actually quite." I sort of like that actually.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to strive for success and strive for the best thing, but at least if you're doing it, and it doesn't matter how bad it is, at least you're doing it.
That's exactly it, man. Done is better than perfect, or just do a shitty job and get it out. Because
Yeah,
if it's still in here, it's not doing anybody any good. Least of
exactly.
all you.
Yeah. So chat to me a little bit about coming back. Um, you know, you said something there which is really interesting to me because it's sort of where I'm at currently, where I'm like trying to get strong again, trying to just enjoy the process and all that sort of stuff. And it's a case of like, one, I look at all the athletes nowadays and I'm like, holy shit, this is like this whole other level. And the weights I'm lifting in the gym, I'm like, man, this is like none of this should feel like the way it feels. So, talk to me about that, like that whole sort of balance of coming back as, you're perceived as the veteran, you're perceived as this, the legend. And then in your head, you're like, I'm an amateur again. Like, where's the challenge there for you?
Yeah,
Or what
that
was the
that
challenge?
was that was a really weird feeling. I mean, especially because after I went through all that shit where my whole life collapsed, and then I had 4 years outside the gym. The first day I came back, I uh, I was so freaking weak. I was so freaking
Mm.
weak. I had lost everything that I had gained in strongman. I did my very first contest in Texas, 2002, at 227 pounds. The first day I walked back in the gym, I was 227 pounds, like on the dot, and that's
Damn.
another story. But um, I remember the second week, I decided I wanted to deadlift, see how I felt.
Okay.
I pulled
Yeah.
405 for 3 reps. I came home, I felt like I had broken my back. I was like, oh my God. Like, I pulled 900 pounds. I pulled,
Yeah.
1,100 for a double from 18 inches. Like, what
Yeah.
happened? Like, how that mountain that I knew was in front of me got a whole lot bigger all of a sudden.
And that's how
Oh,
it
shit.
feels. It feels like, and that's where I'm at. I'm like, man, like, is any of this fucking possible?
Yeah. Well, what I noticed was at that point, I was just going to the gym to feel good because I
Hmm.
now know that I have to train. I have to get that
Yeah.
energy out. I have to stir my blood up. Otherwise, I feel really bad. And I got a little
Mm.
reminder of that last week. But I just kept adding weight. I just kept adding weight little by little. And then I get to, 500. And then I get to 600. And now I'm getting at 700. And I look back, I'm like, fuck, it's already 300 pounds. It's only been at that point maybe a year and a half. It comes back pretty quick.
Yeah.
I gained a lot of it back pretty quick. I didn't get back to, let's say if I had 100%, I got back to 80% really fast from
Yeah.
40%. My story is a little different. When you build muscle, it's like building a skyscraper. And then maybe if you stop training, those top few floors kind of fall into disrepair, but the structure's still
Hmm.
there. Well, the way that I was in that 4 years off, I kind of knocked the top 20 stories off and let the
Yeah.
next 20 fall into disrepair. So I had to rebuild that. Um, but when you get that momentum and then you take time to look back at where you've been, where you started when you started over, and you see, okay, I have gotten stronger. I had like 400. It felt like it broke my back. And
Hmm.
now I'm pulling it and it's like, shit, this feels easy. Okay, this is what I remember it feeling like.
Yes.
So that means that's possible. If going from 400 to 600, is this possible? And I could feel better at 6 than I did at 4, then I
Hmm.
know that 600-pound yoke, I can get to 900 and it's gonna feel just as good, or a
Yeah.
thousand or whatever. And yoke is one of those things. I probably started training it a little bit later, so I grew rapidly on my ability with that. So it's
Mm.
kind of not a fair one to throw in, but pressing was one that was an inch by inch. I've always had to fight every
Yeah.
freaking inch. But the 50-pound dumbbells that I was benching when I came back that first day started being like a nice stretch warm up weight.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like, okay, it's possible. It's growing. It's just you got to be patient, and that was my biggest problem was the patience. Because,
Yeah.
like you're talking about, the guys, and this was always true. There was always a lot of elite people, but a lot of them get forgotten. I had this conversation with Bobby Thompson. He was saying, "Oh, the amateurs are so much better nowadays. There's just a higher density of it." It's like, okay, not as much as people think. It's just that right now, you know all of the names that are at that top
Mm.
level. And let's say there's 100 guys that are, good enough for a pro card. Well, there were 100 guys good enough for a pro card before, albeit, it was slightly lighter. Let's just say the weights were
Yeah.
slightly more, lighter. But 98 of those guys get forgotten about. And then
Yeah.
we think, oh, there weren't that many because only 2 guys came out. Well, the 98 get forgotten about. And that's where the guys who may get their pro card now, if they don't do something big in 10 years, they'll be forgotten about too. It's just how it works. And
Yeah. I
it
mean,
sucks.
realistically, yeah. Like, I mean, if you look at stuff since we've been friends, if you were to ask someone in this day and age who Jesse is, who Osland
Yeah.
is, Kevin Nee, Tom McClure, even Poundstone, like that's 5 huge fucking names,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
people don't know it.
People who really know strongman usually know Poundstone, but Jesse has been lost.
Yes.
I find that a lot of people don't remember. And I'm
Yep.
like, guys, he was really freaking good. He
Yeah.
was.
I don't know if you ever saw. Did you ever see the documentary that they did on Hugo, and it was
Yeah,
about
strongman.
so yes, I love that documentary. But if you look at that, it's like you've got Jesse in there, you've got Wodka Gola, Scooney's in there, Brian
Yeah.
Schoonfeld. How many? Like those are fucking names.
Johnny Perry's and all those guys.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah, and it's like I mean, it's so different nowadays, and I think it's a case of like you said, like that point you said that 98% of those guys are now not known is a huge part of it, and I think that's why this strongman scene seems so much bigger. Yes, it was lighter weights, but at the end of the day, like I don't believe personally that if the weights that we're doing now, if those had been at the time, I don't see these guys not pushing the envelope to those numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
You know?
it's a mental thing. It's like what do you know needs to be done? And if
Yes.
I tried to do that, but if other people aren't hitting those numbers, it's harder to convince yourself that you need to be able to hit them.
Mm-hmm.
So like I had the 500 kilo deadlift written down on my goal sheet my first year as a pro. After my first worlds, because I saw how fast Big Z ran with the 900-pound yoke, and I was like, I gotta level up. So 500
Yeah.
kilo was just my shoot for the moon deadlift goal.
Mm.
But nobody was pulling that. I mean, there's like Benny Magnuson who was fighting with what's his name from England for the
Andy Bolton.
1,000-pound deadlift, Andy Bolton.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's where we were. So yeah, the weights have definitely gotten higher lately, especially on deadlift. But a lot of that is due to the 2-ply suits that are used.
Mm-hmm.
None of that shit was allowed back in the day.
Yeah.
Figure 8 straps kind of help with it as well. But whatever, we can argue that all we
Oh
want.
yeah.
But,
We can go in it all day long.
yeah. But you've got this so-called density of more top athletes that will fall off and will be forgotten about. And I went to Worlds 8 freaking times, 3 at EFSA and 5 with World's Strongest Man. And I even came back in 2021, after the longest stretch off that anybody had ever done. And I think, 5 years later, I go to a show like the Nationals or whatever, and a lot of people know me, but I think more and more each year don't. And it's it's interesting to note. I'm not worried about it. It's just kind of interesting to see the progression of time.
Yeah.
And that's something I guess we realize as we get older. It's just time's a weird thing, man.
Yeah. Well, it's even like me. Like, look, I never got to Worlds. I was right in the cusp. But like, being around all the, I was the tester a number of times. I was at all these different shows. And it's like, I knew yourself. I knew all the guys from Europe, Z. Like, I remember walking through the airport and just like saying hi to Z. And like, everyone knew my face. Whereas nowadays, even with Cerberus, like no one really picks up. I'm like, it's such an interesting concept to me because of how different it is. It's almost like back in the day, it was, and maybe this is the difference where back in the day, like everyone like worshipped the fucking top guys, and maybe they still do from a world's perspective, but like it was just, I don't know, it's just different. And honestly, it might have been me as well because I went so deep down the rabbit hole. I mean, there was a point in time where I could name every single world's winner, just
Yeah.
off the bat, chronological. But I don't think that history of the sport is as important to athletes these days.
I've noticed a loss in the obsession because
Yeah.
and that's what comes with a larger platform. You know, you have more
Mm.
people seeing worlds because of social media and like big personalities. And that's what it takes really to be known, is to be a big personality on social media. We've
Yes.
seen some big personalities be huge on social media who never really quite performed as
Hmm.
well as you maybe thought they were because of how well known
Yes.
they were. You know, but yeah, the number of new athletes coming in that don't know how many times Magnus Ver Magnusson won, and you know who he beat, and when
Yeah.
did Magnus Samuelsson win? How many times did Yoko win? Yeah, there was we had Reno come in a couple years ago and win
Yeah.
in his rookie year. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, who else did that? I could name the ones who did. You know,
Yeah.
Magnus Ver Magnusson was one who won in his rookie
Hmm.
year. Yoko Ahola in '97. I mean, I could tell you the freaking years that they
Yeah.
won.
Yeah.
And then uh, I always forget the guy that won the first one's name, Bill something or Bob.
Oh, Bruce Wilhelm.
Bruce, that's it, Bruce. I never freaking remember his
Yeah.
name. And I always know as soon as I say it, I'm going to forget his damn name. But he won on his rookie year, but it was kind of by default. So do we
Yeah.
count that? Because it was the
Eh,
first one.
the first one. Yeah. But it's
You
even
know,
stuff
but
like Sven. Like Sven was the storyteller, the fairy
yeah,
tale. Third, second, first. You know,
yeah, exactly. I'm not
if you
sure
ask
if,
someone nowadays who Sven Carlson is,
yeah.
I guarantee they don't know, and that makes me so upset.
Yeah, because he was one of my heroes, man. And it's
Same.
kind of
Yeah.
funny that he was one of my heroes because of where our stories ended up. But I maybe should have idolized some different guys. I don't know. But
Oh shit.
yeah, you know, the Sven Carlson's, the Marius story in
Oh
2000,
god.
and then why he wasn't there in 2001, and then came back
Yeah.
stronger than ever in 2002. And, you know, just all the little fun ins and outs that we've gotten to be a part of for 20 years now,
I know,
25
right?
years.
It's
Yeah.
insane. So rolling it back to the fast rise, did that success feel different than you expected, or did you not even really expect anything at all because you were just part of it and you were just living it?
You know, you and I know that it was a huge success, like crazy ride, you know,
Yeah.
from amateur to pro. I remember meeting Dougie Edmonds, the guy who
Yep.
ran IFSA and was big part of World's Strongest Man for years and years and years. He was at 2004 Nationals because he was also America's Strongest Man, the same place. And I walked up and I introduced myself as, you know, I'm Travis Ortmayer. I'm going to be your next pro. And he kind of
Yeah.
laughed and goes, okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, you know, it was a meteoric rise. But in the moment, when you're sitting on the front of that freaking comet
Hmm.
shooting through space, you don't notice it. All you're seeing is that next one. And that's the only thing.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's taking forever to get to the next thing. But you
Yeah.
have no idea how much shit you just passed by. Yeah, it
It's sort of
was,
sad, really, when you think about it,
yeah, which is why
to
reflect and
miss
write
it
it
all.
down.
Yeah, to miss it all in the moment, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And that's where the second round came in. It was a lot more appreciative and grateful for
Yeah.
every moment.
So I want to start slowly moving into that transition period. Um, the first question I've got for you is, do you think that your success hid problems in life? Like, do you feel like where did the cracks start to form with everything?
Oh, from the first one, there were a lot of cracks that eventually compounded into a complete foundation destruction.
Yeah.
But they started with, the 20 shows a year and just getting beat up, burned out, and then going anyway. And then a couple injuries pile up, and I usually got through them. Like I tore half of my pec. You can see that big gap right there. I tore that in 2008, May of 2008. The day after Marcel from Champions League sent me a ticket to come compete in Holland. I talked to him the day before. He said, "Hey, man, everything good? You ready? I'm going to buy this ticket. It's $1,200. And then I ripped this thing off, and I was like, well, shit. I can't back out now. So I got in. I competed. I tied for second at that show. But then 2 weeks later was Madison Square Garden. This trophy right here.
Yeah.
That was Madison Square Garden against Poundstone and Brian Shaw and Terry Hollins. And I didn't want to pull out of that because that was a super series. I needed to keep my name.
I didn't realize you were injured there. I watched that. That was like one of the first live streams. I watched that thing live.
That's right. Yeah.
I didn't realize you were fucked up there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't talk about those things, but with Axel, it didn't hurt as much as Log. Log really hurt. Axel, I could put my arms out wider and I didn't have to use that part of my pec as much. But I ended up winning that show. But then the next week was Fortissimus, which was like the most brutal contest of all time. That was the one where they did, it was 5 events both days, except the last event was actually 2 events that just counted as half each for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's like, a Husafel stone carry plus a power stair or something, like 2 separate total events, counting half. But anyway, because I'm a little bitter about that because the other one was Atlas stones and natural stones counting as one event. Like Power Stair and Husafel, great events. Atlas stones, great events. So all the ones that I'm really good at only counted for half. It's like, this is bullshit. But anyway, I didn't want to pull out of that either because it was such a big deal. So that's why it's not reattached now. I kept going. I didn't have time to stop. But injuries like that kind of piled up. And then the biggest crack was 2010 World's Strongest Man. That was where I broke my ankle halfway through the final. I was in the lead going into the log press. I knew I would lose a couple points there, but the next day was my best events. Like there was a frame carry, there was a car deadlift, and there was stones. Like if there was a contest tailor made to me, that was it. The only way it could have been better is if we did circus dumbbell instead of log. I'd have won every damn event. But and I broke my ankle and I was in first at the time. So of course I'm not going to pull out, and I compete that second day. I tried to tape it up and I had an ankle brace on, and I carried the frame farther than Poundstone did. I love to tell him that, but I was limping with 800 pounds. It was brutal, but held on for 5th place. And then really should have just gone into kind of hibernation at that point. But I was still on the bandwagon of, okay, well, Worlds is done. Let's get ready for the Arnold. Because Arnold's coming up in like 5 months. Let's just get ready. Let's do it. And so I started training way too soon. And I started pushing it way too hard. Then I remember one day, I go in to do Axel and my ankle's hurting. And I just feel beat up. And I miss 275.
Oh,
and I was
shit.
like,
wow.
I was like, what in the hell is going on? And so in pure raged frustration, I leave the gym and I'm like, that's it. I'm coming back tomorrow. I'm going to try it again. If I can get 400, then I'll go do the Arnold. If I can't get it, then I'll back out. So I went in the next day, and this is where the power of my mind was really my strongest tool, but it was also the biggest weapon against me. Yeah, because I went in the next day and I nailed 400. And so I'm like, that's it, full steam ahead. And really should have just stopped. I I talked with my dad and my wife at the time, and they didn't like the idea of me dropping out. You don't back out of the Arnold, But Terry
Yeah,
Todd
no,
always had
yeah.
this rain check thing where if you were injured, you could tell him, and then you could come back with that invite the next year. He would hold that spot for you. And I should have taken that, but I went on training and I pushed through the broken ankle, and it was hurting me for about a year and a half after that. But I took fourth at the Arnold that year. I still did that like 1,100-pound frame carry that we had that year. Some
Oh, yeah,
ridiculous
I
amount.
remember
Maybe
that. Yeah.
it was either that or the 1,000-pound one. They went up a bunch over 2
Yeah.
years where we could wear straps. But yeah, took fourth, and so went right into the rest of the season competing. I think I competed like 2 weeks later in Germany and at the FIBO, and then
Oh,
that
yeah.
was it. I had like 12 more shows to do that year. So should have sat on my ass, let myself recover, because I got to the point at the end of 2011 where I was just sick of training. I hated
Yeah.
it. I didn't want to compete. I didn't want to go anywhere. But I was kind of trapped at that point because that was my primary source of income. I had a little
Yeah.
personal training on the side, but prize money was where I made my living, really.
Sure.
And, I've got a wife and a kid and a house. I got to keep going. So I kept pushing. The more I pushed, the more I resented it. And then by halfway through 2012, that was it. I just couldn't stand it anymore. And I broke, In that push, I started taking painkillers. And that's probably one of the bigger cracks at one of the more crucial places in the foundation that opened up into the rest of it being, really, really bad, falling apart. Um, Painkillers allowed me to keep competing and training,
Sure.
but they lose their effectiveness fairly quickly. So you increase the dose, and then before you know it, you're hooked. And I had this nurse practitioner who was like, "Oh yeah, man, you come by, we'll get you set up." It was one of those pill mills that are so
Okay. Yeah.
famous or notorious now, but it's like, "Come by, we'll get you set up." And I did, and it's not like I didn't know the risks, because on my way,
Yeah.
I could still remember the intersection. And I'm sitting in this Dodge Nitro that we had at the time. I got my wife and my son in the car, and I'm at this light. I was sitting at that intersection between Luetta and Grant Road, and I distinctively remember that little voice in the back of my head that just says, "Don't do it. Just don't do it." And it was very quiet, but it was definitely there. And, it's that guide, that angel, or my intuition, or whatever it is that's been guiding me the right direction my whole life. It tried, and I didn't listen. And I said, yeah, whatever, that's weird. It just went on anyway. And that prescription, I mean, right away, I was feeling better to train. The ankle didn't hurt as much. I was in a better mood. And so I'd go and work out and I could recover faster, it felt like. But it was numbing me, and then
Yeah.
as I got used to it, I would need more. And then I was taking hydrocodone with Soma, which it's an anti like psychotic drug or something, but it had muscle relaxing effects.
Okay.
But basically what it did was potentiate the opiate response. It would make
Got you.
your painkillers more intense. It got to the point where Soma became banned because so many heroin addicts figured this out and they would fight for Soma. So Soma got to the point where they cut that off. But at the time, I was taking both of those, and training hard, competing, traveling hard. I also liked having those because flights became a whole lot easier. When you're on a plane for 10 hours, especially after a show, you're all beat up. And if it's a Champions League show, you're hungover because you competed for 2 days and then you didn't sleep. You went out and partied and then got on a 6 o'clock fucking bus to go to the flight and go home. I've thrown up in so many airport bathrooms the night after. Oh my God, dude. Absolute worst hangover. But that made it a lot easier. So I was like, hey, this is great. I can keep rolling like this. But
Yeah.
you don't notice. You don't notice because you don't notice. You don't feel as much. So you don't notice that your emotional connection is dropping as well. And you start becoming a little more distant to like my wife at the time. And that drives a wedge and you start to kind of pull apart. And so a couple of years of this, and that compounds to the point where you have a problem. You are distancing enough, that relationship's starting to really fall apart. But I wasn't as keenly aware as I should have been because I was halfway numbed most of the time. And I tried to stop several times. And I had no idea how bad that felt, one, or that it was supposed to feel that bad. And then it actually does stop at some point because I got through a couple weeks and it was fucking miserable. But at that point, I was taking 10 of the 10 milligrams, so 100 milligrams at a time with 5 soma and downing those. And yeah, I mean, I laugh because if I don't, I'll cry. It was that's a hefty dose, let's just say.
Yeah. Do you think you were addicted to the substance or were you addicted to the feeling of not feeling?
A little bit of both. That's why I probably didn't make it through when I actually got on the other side of the acute withdrawals. It was the aftermath where emotionally I've had this mask on for years now, and now I don't have it. And that was hard. I didn't have any idea that was a thing. Because you have this like wall in front of you that you are numb and hid behind. And so it's like having raw nerve endings. Everything's extra sensitive, both physically and mentally, emotionally, everything. And I had no idea. And I find now that I should have talked to somebody who had some idea, because I think if somebody would have just said, that's okay, give it another couple of weeks, and I had some kind of light at the end of the tunnel for the way I was feeling, I could have focused on that, but I didn't. I didn't reach out. I didn't know who to reach out to. People talk a lot about mental health now, and there's a lot of stuff online that you can find really easy. That was at the beginning, early stages of the online world, and a lot of that stuff wasn't quite in place yet. Social media, you could find all kinds of stuff, and there was Facebook, but that was it. There wasn't like Facebook groups. There wasn't communities like that you could search and talk to somebody who has gone through that experience and knows what you're talking about. So if I'd have had that, it might have been different. I like to think that it would, but there I was back in that, stuck back in that freaking rut, and year after year, month after month at that point, I was continuing down that road. Then that led to the separation of my wife and I, and she moved out. And we had a nearly 3-year-old son at the time. And I remember one day, the day that she moved out, she just moved down the street. We separated, but the idea was we were going to move to England and try to get away from all the shit here. And in my head, that sounded like a good idea. She's from England, so moving to England was moving home. So the day they moved out, I walk back in the house after kind of helping them down the street carry their shit, and I walk in, open the door, and you know how that term, the silence was deafening? That was the weirdest feeling. It's exactly how it felt. I walked in and it was like overwhelming how quiet the house was. And then these emotions I'm not used to. I'm not used to feeling like that. First off, I'm not used to feeling, like sadness or weakness. I'd blocked those out a long freaking time ago when I was getting bullied. And now it's like all this
Yeah.
backlog
Okay.
of emotions starting to kind of pile up. So I'm still trying to hide from it. And then things got really bad when she did go to the airport to move to England. You know, that was one of those days where that little voice was popping up in the back of my head saying, don't do it. Don't let her do it. Don't let her go. She's not going to work out well. But I'm trying to rationalize things saying, you know, well, we're going to try it there. This is going to be okay. If I can get away from this, we can
Sure.
make this happen. Cut off the source. I got no way to refill a prescription.
Yeah.
I didn't on the surface realize what was going on. I did deep down know what was going on. And I was being led to believe one thing while something else was happening. She was just moving to get away and wanted to take our son and not have me fight her about it, you know, which I found out, a year later or whatever, when I read through this thing called the Hague Convention, talks about child custody internationally. That's very illegal. You can't leave under false pretense. But I mean, it's not like I was going to call the FBI and have her put in cuffs in front of my kid and dragged off. Like I took them to the airport. This is November 25th, 2012. This is the absolute worst day of my entire life. They're getting out of the car, grabbing the bags, and then I got my son wearing his little Cars baseball cap, the Cars the movie. He's got a Cars backpack, Lightning McQueen, and he's excited because he's going on a trip. You know, he's been around the world. He's been to England before. He was at that Worlds in South Africa. He actually took his first steps on the day before the last day of the qualifying round, where I was struggling to get through. You know, I'm sitting on the edge of the bed thinking, shit, how am I going to do this? And then he gets up and walks across the room to me. And it's like, well, shit, man. All right, if you can do that, I can do this.
Yeah.
Never forget that moment.
Damn, dude.
But anyway, they grab their bags. And as soon as they walk through the doors, and then the doors close, and I remember so distinctly, I could still almost feel it. That pain was... the doors closed, and it's like once they hit this huge gash opened up on my heart. It was the most painful thing I've ever felt in my entire life. It's like all the emotion that I was blocking just suddenly came out with full force, and it felt like I was just ripping in half. And I mean, no physical pain. I've never felt anything close, and I've been through some serious pain. I had to stop a couple times driving home just to kind of collect myself. But, you know, I wasn't used to feeling. So I was looking for a way to kind of block this. And I told myself, you know, Travis, just take a week and just dive in, lose yourself, whatever. Take a week, get as messed up as you want to. And then after that, we're going to get our life together and start going forward. Well, I had the bright idea to really check out. I had a friend that had offered me meth, and I hit her up and started using that. And that week turned into 4 years of just my life was slowly kind of going downhill, and then that was like falling off a cliff. You know, The one thing that it did was it blocked any withdrawal symptoms from the opiates. So I was able to get off the painkillers. And that's why I justified using it, because I'm like, oh yeah, man, I could use this, and I can get off the painkillers, and I can quit this. I don't even feel like I need it. And then of course that was a lie. That went really downhill really quickly, and it was in a place where I was kind of desperate anyway, and so it just took root and it sucked me into that black hole. And that's a sad world to be in, man, because I saw families get ripped apart. I saw people just deteriorate, you know, happy, healthy, happy. I say happy. You're not really happy if you're using that. But healthy enough with somewhat stable family lives. And they just destroyed all of it. I mean, it's such a common theme with meth, it just, holy shit, man. It needs to be one of those things that is eradicated. You know, that and fentanyl. Just let's go back to the 60s where people thought that smoking weed was a big deal. Because almost nobody destroys their entire world because they got high a couple times. You know, smoking weed rather. But
yeah.
That was 4 years. And that's, you know, in that time, I lost my family. I had lost like my friends. You know, everybody stopped talking to me. I'd obviously lost my strongman career. Lost my personal training career. I couldn't stand training. You know, and it's weird. Crystal meth gets into your brain and it hijacks who you are. And it hijacks how you think. It's like it changes the connections between the neurons and twists things up and mixes things around. And so like even the music that I listened to was completely different. And I hated metal. And Metallica was my favorite forever. Still is now. But like my taste in everything changed. It's like I'm this same shell of a person, but like the insides are completely different.
Yeah, it's completely different.
And you know, it's weird. I noticed that because I was like, why am I not interested in listening to rock and heavy metal and stuff like that? It just I couldn't stand it. And I couldn't stand the idea of going to the gym. And then dealt with the 4 years of that, eventually lost my house. I played that game for a while. I managed to not make a payment for about 2 years, but then played the bankruptcy thing. And I've learned a lot. I knew that my life was falling apart, and I knew that I was in a fucking mess. So I took that opportunity to kind of test how the world worked in a lot of areas. And so I realized that, you know, if the end game is, you know, you're going to lose your house, you can fuck with the system a little bit by declaring bankruptcy and then forfeiting that bankruptcy because I never made the first payment. It was Chapter 13 where they roll everything into one payment. And I forfeit that. And so then it takes a couple months for everyone to figure out. And then the bank goes through the foreclosure process again on the house. And then I file for bankruptcy again and it pushes it off. Each time I get like 6 or 7 months out of it, you know? So I was eventually, it caught up with me and I realized it was going to, and I knew I wasn't going to get myself out of the mess. And so I used it as kind of a catalyst for freedom. And I thought, okay, this house is my prison. And this is where, you know, that guy that I was talking about that kind of steered me in the right direction. I've had these like advanced psychological ideas that I've learned about later that just kind of came naturally to me. And so I put my energy into the house as this is my prison and I can't escape it. So I need to find another way out. And then doing that was the other way out. And it got by the subconscious enough that I didn't block it. Because the subconscious is tricky. The subconscious, your whole world is your subconscious understanding. And if I were to try and like, okay, I'm going to sell the house and move, and I got this big mission, your subconscious is going to say, no, hell no, you're not going to do that. That's not who you are. That's unknown territory. We can't do that. But I left this little back door where it's like, well, we're going to get kicked out of the house, and I'm setting things up. I'm focused over here, but this is actually happening behind me. And so the day came, this was in July of 2012. 2015. They came, you know, broke open the front door. They knocked and then broke it open. I'm like, dude, I could have fucking opened it for you. It was a constable and then a moving crew. And then they kick you out. You get booted and you can grab like maybe a shirt and your toothbrush. That whole thing where they're like, they give you an hour to pack is fucking bullshit. I got like 10 minutes to take a piss, grab my toothbrush, and sneak out of there with whatever I had in my hand. I had boxes packed because I knew it was coming. So I had everything packed, and I was moving stuff into a storage unit this whole time. I just didn't have enough time because I had nobody helping me. And I was being obsessive with the way I packed. That was taking way too much time, which tweaker fucking mindset, you know. But I had all these boxes in the front room, so I started grabbing those to take them. They pulled them out of my hand and said, "No, you don't get to do that." I was like, "Well, fuck." And now I remember why, is because they want to ransom your shit back to you. The moving company that comes in wants to take all your stuff and then hold it for ransom. And if you don't pay it, they auction it off. So I had to go, and then I went to the storage unit that I had started packing my stuff in. And this is the same storage unit that we had trained at for, 10, 12 years. That was the unit. That was where we had our strongman stuff.
Damn.
Yeah, so the owners knew me really well, and they'd seen kind of what had happened. And I the first day, I had just a couple things that were already in my truck, and I was just kind of rearranging all my stuff in there because in my mind I'm gonna go buy my shit back and then pack it up. And I ended up sleeping there that first night. And the next day, this is Steve and Linda are the ones that owned it, and they lived on site. And Steve comes over, and he looks at me, and his East Texas accent goes, "Now, Travis, you know you can't stay here, right?" Like, okay. Yeah, but Steve, of course not, man. I was working late, and I fell asleep. I just took a nap. Yeah, absolutely, man. But they never really mentioned it again. And so I would stay away, but then I'd come and I'd stay a little bit later, and I just kind of eased my way over there. I had one last friend that I stayed a couple nights with at that point, and they ended up stealing a bunch of shit out of one of my suitcases, fucking tweakers. So I was like, I got to go. And that's when I started staying at the storage unit full time. And I got a picture of it. It was a 10 by 10 storage unit. I had all my stuff packed in there. And I had built this shelf across the back wall, and I was sleeping on top of it was one of those plyo box / storage boxes. So it was about 2 feet by 3 feet wide. I was sleeping on that on top of a yoga mat with my feet up on the shelf in the back. And I ran a power cord over to one of the outlets, and I could charge my phone and I could have some light at night. But I stayed there for, several months. I was trying to save money because in that July, the beginning of that July or later June, I got a call from my parents' best friend from the old roommate that's kind of my aunt out in Reno. See, at this point, my parents had moved to Reno, 2012 or 2014, rather. And I get a call, and she says, your mom's not doing well. You probably should think about coming out here. And I'm like, yeah, I absolutely. I'm kind of in a jam. I could use some help. Maybe someone could send me some money so I could drive out. Oh, no, we can't do that. Okay. I see. Whatever. But I hadn't spoken to my parents in 2 years at this point. We had a falling out. And so, yeah, I knew that it was just up to me, and I had to save money the only way that I could. And that's to spend as little as possible. So I stayed in the storage unit, and I ate every, let's say, once a day, day and a half. I would get fast food. God, it was disgusting. But I did end up buying my stuff and then getting it back and packing it in as best I could. Now we're getting into December, that I've been staying there for months, trying to save money. And I would drive around at night and go to neighborhoods that put their trash cans out. And in Houston, it was kind of a thing where people would put something out that they didn't want anymore, and then, somebody would come and get it. And I was one of those guys, but because I was a freaking tweaker, I was the 2 a.m. guy, and I beat all the Mexican guys at 5 a.m. So I got first dibs. And then I'd just resell whatever it is. I could fix up something real quick and resell it. Vacuums were like gold for me, because people would throw a vacuum out the second it stopped working, and 99% of the time it was just a little clog somewhere. And that was $50.
Sure, sure, sure.
So I was always kind of industrious,
Damn, dude.
and I saved up enough money that I was ready to go. And this is kind of a funny story. I'll finish with this. But I had this 2003 Dodge Dakota that had, if you've seen those years, every one of them has the paint burned off of them. I found out later that they had Mazda do the paint jobs on those, and they forgot one layer, or they skipped out on one layer. And so the sun would burn through the paint. They all lost their paint. Mine was no exception. Well, in like 2013, 2014, I got the bright idea that I was going to strip it down and paint it myself. Well, true tweaker fashion, I got halfway through the project and then walked away, got put onto something else. So I had this truck with like 2 different colors of primer paint on it for a year and a half. And I was like, there's no way I can show up in this thing. There's no way. So the last thing I had to do was painting. And I tweakers, God. So I started working on it. And I'm taking paint and I'm covering all my lights and I've got paper over the windshields it takes forever to do that. And then I start kind of sanding it down and now it's getting dark. So, well, shit, I can't paint. And now it's dark and it's like, fuck, well, I'm hungry. Well, I need to go get some food. So I got to take all this shit off that I just spent like 4 hours putting on.
Oh my God, dude.
So I go get food. But at least, I'd pull it off in chunks so I could stick it back on. And then that was like the first day and a half trying to fucking do that shit. And then the sanding it down took another day or 2. That's actually the hardest part. Sanding, there's a lot of work there.
Yeah.
And then I had this outdoor sprayer that I had bought for the job. Now I finally get to use it. So I put this gallon of gloss black outdoor paint in it and I spray it down and it was so shiny. You could see every dent and nick and scratch and everything in it. And Steve walked by with this goofy smile on his face and I'm like, hey Steve, what do you think? He goes, starts rolling his cigarette. He used to roll his own. Well,
yeah.
It's shiny, and then walked away. I got you. Okay, Steve. All right. So the next day, I mixed like a 70-30 matte black with a little bit of gloss, and it actually came out looking pretty good at that point. That was Christmas Eve. And the next day, I had a little bit of a hiccup on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And I'll tell you that story. It's a funny story, too. But anyway, I got it done finally Christmas Day. And then Boxing Day, I was gone. It was actually like halfway through the 26th that I finished and finally took all the stuff off. And then that, like 4 o'clock that afternoon, I was gone. I was driving to Reno from Houston. Now, the little side story, the reason I got a little hung up on Christmas Day is because Christmas Eve, I spent Christmas with the owners. I just said his freaking name, and it's brain fart time.
Steve.
Steve and Linda. I spent Christmas Eve with them and their family, like their daughter had come over, and Linda had made this chili that she laughed when she told me. She's like, yep, it's just as hot coming out as it is going in. And I was like, oh yeah, funny.
Oh my God.
Well, Christmas Day, I'd eaten a bunch of the chili, and it was like the best meal I'd had in like months at that point. So I enjoyed it, man. Got up Christmas Day. They were open for 2 hours. The office was open for 2 hours. It's like 10 to noon. 11:45 comes around, and my stomach starts rumbling. I'm like, oh, shit. So I run up to the office to use the bathroom, and not pleasant. I think I'm done. I feel terrible because the whole thing's probably blown up, and at least they don't live in the front office. I can keep the fan on and shut the door, and it's got a day to air out. But as I'm walking from the office back to where my unit was, my stomach starts rumbling again. At this point, it's already well after noon. He's locked everything up. He only kept it open so I could stay in there for another 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And so I'm like, oh, shit. Oh, this is not going to be pretty. Like I get to storage, my unit I got a metal trash can and a grocery bag that I lined it with. And if you, I kind of want to show you this picture because I'm up on that 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 box, that plyo box that I was talking about. 1 foot on there, 1 foot on the ground because I didn't have much room to kind of maneuver or get around. And so I feel like my guts are just dying. I'm just in horrible pain. And it's this awful, just shitting everywhere. I mean, but I got it all in the bag, thank God.
Oh my God.
But here, I've got this picture right here. I don't know if we can see it or not. You see that box right in the
Okay, I
middle?
got
That's
it.
where I
Yeah.
slept. You see a
Yeah.
little bit of concrete to the side of it. That's where I put my foot, and the other leg was up on the freaking box because I had no room.
Fuck, man.
And yeah, I spent like 2-3 rounds like that. I would have to go out and I'd dump it in the dumpster. Like, fuck me, man. Oh, it was so awful. But yeah, anyway, I learned a lot that day. 'Cause
Yeah, no
I
shit.
was sitting there thinking, how god awful this is. But I'm also thinking I'm 1 day away. And this is when it gets hard. This is when, they say the night is darkest just before the dawn. I knew that's what it was. So I was like, this is just one more little thing. And I had this momentum going at that point. And nothing could stop me. Not even the hottest chili in the world on its way out.
So where did you? So you get kicked out of the house. Were you still using that entire time when you
Yep.
were in the storage unit, or where's the turning point from there?
So
From that perspective,
all the way through to on my trip from Reno or from Houston to Reno.
oh
It's
wow,
normally a
okay,
2-day drive, but I thought,
yeah,
this is freedom. This is my ride to freedom. My lowest point was not even getting kicked out of the house. My lowest point was when I realized that I needed to change my life because I had a gun in my mouth and wanted to end it. And we can talk about that one in a second. Because that's a strong lesson that people should know. But Boxing Day, I take off, I start driving, and I go where I want, when I want, and I stay as long as I want. I'm using this trip as a way to free myself. And I realized something really important. This is where my guide, that gives me those awesome psychological insights. This is a tool that could be used to save so many people from this particular addiction because it's a dopamine addiction. It crushes your dopamine and just it makes your own production and use of dopamine. I think it's a dopamine reuptake inhibitor, which means you get a ton of dopamine kind of constantly flooding your system. And dopamine is your novelty neurotransmitter. It's your reward neurotransmitter. Well, what's more novel than exploring across the country into the unknown? So I'm driving and I had this finite amount and obviously no way to resupply. So I had to dole it out. I had to start here and I'd get less and less each day. And I would take it and I would put it in like some coffee or something, which ingesting it is a little less intense, longer acting than either smoking or injecting. Injecting is very high. Smoking is very high, also a little slower than injecting, but then snorting is a little bit longer than that. But ingesting, drinking gives a slower intake and then release.
okay,
I made use of that, which means it was less intense of a spike. So that alone is already easier to get over. And then it had this longer lasting effect. So I could step down. It wasn't as much of a crash. It was a slower step down.
Yeah.
And then I had this constant novelty of exploring this unknown chart out in front of me. And now I realize that if you wanted to get off of this particular drug, the best way to do it is to create something novel. Because if you don't have that, you have this horrible dopamine crash and you get this depression that
Yeah.
feels unending. Because I had tried to quit a couple times before. And I just kept going. And there was a point where I got to the Grand Canyon, New Year's Eve. So it took me a few days, but I got to the Grand Canyon New Year's Eve. And it's like 11:30 at night. So I'm driving through the park. There's snow everywhere. I've got probably 600 or 700 pounds of my shit packed in the bed of my truck, which turned out to be a lifesaver because I didn't realize how bad it was to drive in a 2-wheel drive truck in the snow. But it saved me. That's another one of those things. My guy just had it right. I just got lucky. But I pull off to the side of the road to take a nap. And turns out this was one of the pull-offs for one of the scenic vistas. I had no idea because it was pitch black. But I'm waking up. I'm sitting in the front of my truck where I slept most of the nights on that trip. And I'm waking up and the sun's coming up directly in front of me. And I see the whole Grand Canyon right there in front of me. Like, if you've seen it, you know what I mean. It's awe-inspiring, doesn't do it justice. To see it with the sun coming up, and then that little voice in the back of my head says, we're free. That's it. That was the last time I ever took anything. That was the last time I took it. The meth was gone. It was out of my system. I didn't want it anymore. I just kept going forward. I enjoyed the Grand Canyon for a couple of days. I went to Zion. I enjoyed Zion a couple of days. And then I made my way through even more snow to Reno, which this whole trek is like precarious because I'm driving through snow. I've never even seen snow, let alone driven through it. You know, I've seen it, but I've never actually driven through it because you don't have snow in Houston. So it was exciting. You know, I had that dopamine, that natural spike the entire trip. So I never missed it. And then I get to Reno, and there's a couple days where I kind of had to just get myself moving. But at that point, it wasn't a big deal. It was easy. I could just say, I am at a point now where I'm over the hump, and I can easily okay, we're getting up and going. And shortly after I got there on the 7th of January, or the 5th of January, sorry. And I took a few days just to kind of settle in. But then on the 15th, I started getting this itch. Actually, it was on like the 13th, but I started getting this itch. I had to go train. I had to work out. I just that shit was out of my system. I started wanting to listen to my hard rock again. Put Metallica on. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fucking, I missed that. And then I wanted to go to the gym. I had this overwhelming urge to go train. It's like me. I came back.
That's nuts. That's insane.
Yeah, it was wild. And that's that day I walked into the gym. I was 227 pounds, down from like 341 at my top. So long freaking ride, man. A long freaking ride.
What lessons from adversity do you have at that time that can obviously, you know, there's tons of lessons you've learned through that process, and not everyone's going to be in that same situation. But what sort of lessons do you think are things which apply to everybody?
Yeah, I've
that
got
you've learned in that time.
I've got a couple because I've told this story a few times, and I realize it's pretty impactful. And I realize some of the things I did can be used and applied in any situation. And the biggest lesson that I learned for anyone at any time in life came at that darkest moment where I'm sitting on the side of my bathtub. And I remember what brought it on, because I had tried to call my son, and I was getting the voicemail more and more frequently, you know, because she didn't want to pick up, whatever. And it was another one of those days, it'd been like 3 or 4 days in a row where I called and I got the voicemail, and every time I heard that freaking little English woman's voicemail thing, it was like that opening on my heart, just kind of got a little taste of that every fucking time. And so this time I was kind of breaking down, and I wanted to be done, man, because everything else in my life sucked. I was unhappy. You know, my life is falling apart. I found out I was going to lose the house. I lost everything else. Nobody was talking to me anymore. I wanted to end it because I thought, well, fuck, what am I doing here? So I had my Beretta 40 caliber, and I fucking put the gun in my mouth. And then all of a sudden, this image pops into my head of the poor bastard that's going to have to clean the mess up. And I thought, that's weird. Like, why would I even care? So I started, that turned my thought process just enough that it was like, oh, wait a second, maybe I don't want to do this. Because when you're that sad and you're hurting that much, that is all you can see.
Yeah.
And it is so overwhelming
Oh, yeah.
to have that one little bit of interruption in that pattern took me a different direction and saved my life, literally. And I kind of, I'm shaking. I put the gun down and I'm sitting here like, what in the hell am I doing? And I said, I can't live like this anymore. I can't fucking do this anymore. This is not, I need to figure something out. And so I'm looking up the ground and I see my toes just wiggle. And I'm seeing, I missed the part before that was I got to find something good. And I'm looking around my house and I'm trying to find something that isn't destroyed or, clutter everywhere. It's a fucking tweaker house at this point. It was a somewhat clean tweaker house, but it was cluttered. There was shit everywhere. And every single corner I looked in had a memory of my son. So it was painful every fucking time.
Yeah.
And I remember going, okay, we got to find something good. And then as soon as I look around, I started seeing this bad, that bad, this bad. And I had this little thing. It was like, I lost this. I lost my house. I lost my friends. I lost my family. I lost. And that just triggered automatically. As soon as I started to think, what do I have that's good? Well, I lost this. I lost that. I lost blah, blah, blah. And it was like a part of me caught that. It was like, well, that's a strong reaction right there. That is a knee-jerk response almost. Even when I'm trying to find the good, I have this sudden, I've lost this downward spiral of thoughts. And I thought, every time I've noticed that that's happened over the years, and I thought, the more I think of that, the worse my life seems to get. And I took note of that a few times, but at this point it hit. And I realized, well, if that's true, then maybe the opposite is true. And if I think about the good things, maybe I'll start to spiral up instead of down. And if I focus on those good things, rather than focusing on the bad things, maybe I can reverse this negative momentum. And so I tried it, and I was looking around. I couldn't find anything, and I noticed that spiral happening. I cut it off, and I said, let's go find one, just something simple, man, just something simple. And that's when I'm looking down, and I see my toes move, and I said, well, shit, okay, there we go. I still have both of my own feet. I still have both of my own feet. They work. And hell, I could get up and I could walk out of here. I don't have to be in here. I don't actually have to sit in this misery. I've got my own two legs. I can get up and go. And then I felt this warm sensation right here come up the back of my throat, into the back of my head. Joy. And I hadn't felt that in years. It was powerful. It cut through all the other noise, just like parting the Red Sea kind of shit. It was so strong and it felt so freaking good. And I thought, wow, okay. I sat with that for a while. I went to bed. I got up the next day and I said, I want to feel that again. I want to feel that again.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, let's find something good. Let's find something good. Look around. And then I noticed all the bad things. And I'm like, nope, I got my feet. I got my hands. I got my hands and I got my feet. My hands are still strong. My feet can get me where I want to go. And my hands can do anything I want to do. Boom. Right on cue. That feeling came back up. And I was like, this is powerful. This is the freaking secret right here. So every day I tried to find another good thing. On the third day, I found a third thing.
Yeah.
Fourth day, I found a fourth. On the fifth, I didn't find another thing. So I went back through the first four. That became my fifth thing. Now I have a gratitude list. Now every time I say something that sparks that, well, I lost this, I lost that, I lost blah, 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 I cut it off and I say, but I got this, I got that, I got this, I got that. And then I feel that joy surface again. And then I started carrying a rock or something with me. They've gotten fancier over the years. This is called Eagle Eye. It's like a tiger eye, but blue. But I would keep just something in my pocket that every time I put my hand in my pocket, to grab my phone or my keys or whatever, I'd pull it out,
Yeah.
and it would remind me this is my gratitude list. And I'd attach 5 or 6 things to it, and every time I saw it, I
Sure.
would force myself to think of those things and feel that emotion. And I started sharing this with the friends that I had at the time.
Mm.
They didn't like it. Some of them were cool with it, but a couple of them really didn't like it. And I remember one woman who was particularly nasty sometimes, just emotionally very, very dark.
Okay.
She looked at me and said, "What do you have to be so grateful for?" And I thought, oh shit, this is powerful. This is making some waves. This is really fucking powerful. And I said, that's my grateful thing for today, is how fucking powerful you just showed me this is. And everything that happened at that point, because that's something that could tear somebody down if they have the right, if they're said to at the right moment of weakness or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yep. Hmm.
But now, anytime something like that was said to me, I could spin it. And I said, this is a good thing. This is making me feel strong. I've got either it's putting me in the right direction just naturally, or it's trying to resist me, which is giving me something to fight. And it makes me feel even stronger because I can take it in that right direction. Didn't matter what came at me, it was all spun around to be a positive. And it took a while. So this happened in early 2015. And it took me a few months to really start to reverse, because I had a lot of negative momentum. But it took a while.
Yeah.
Every day, every time I felt that little rock or whatever, every time I could, I would do that gratitude list in my head. And then by the time they came to kick me out of my house, I'd already passed rock bottom. And I knew that eviction was freedom. They were breaking me out of prison. It kind of hurt, obviously. It's not fun to be kicked out of your house and have all your shit taken from you. But when I got to the storage unit after leaving, because I didn't have anywhere else to go, I remember thinking, this is freedom. I'm finally free of that fucking nightmare.
Yeah.
And that's when that grip that the meth had started to lose its strength. It started to fall off. And that's when I started building everything up to where I could get out and I could make that trip. And I knew that drive was going to be my road to freedom. And I knew that was going to be the last time I fucking touched it. And I didn't make it a mission to say, no, I'm going to quit on this trip. I never did that because that subconscious block will happen. The creature brain, when you have creature brain going, it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it knows it's a known survivable experience, it wants to hold on to it. It does not like change. So I opened all those back doors and I said, well, I'm going to make this trip. And then I won't be able to re-up. I won't be able to get any more stuff. So it's going to have to I didn't think of that. I just kind of let that happen. And I just snuck it in. I snuck sobriety in the back door.
It's an interesting way to do it, though. And I think that lesson, that, leave the back door open, can apply to so many different things. Like, realistically, like what you're saying is like exactly like the limiting factor for a lot of people in a ton of different things.
Yeah.
Whether it's getting sober, whether it's achieving a goal, whether it's whatever the you stop yourself because you start thinking about it too much.
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. And when I say your subconscious, the creature brain does not like anything other than known survivable experiences. That's a hardwired thing. And you can't be something that it's not ready for. So when I work with my athletes, I have them this is an exercise that we do that you can kind of start programming your subconscious. Because you get into this brain state called theta. Children are in theta.
Yeah.
Their brainwave state. They're in theta a lot of the time, which is why they download information so freaking easily. They're like a sponge. Theta is your programmable state. And as adults, we get into
Okay.
it right as we're falling asleep and then right as we're coming out of sleep, because we've got, alpha is kind of our relaxed state. Beta is like a thinking stress state. Alpha is relaxed. And then we get into theta. I think alpha and beta should be switched. They ordered those wrong.
Yeah.
But theta is that
Yeah.
stage right as we're relaxed and falling unconscious. And then you get into delta for sleeping. And then I think there's also gamma, but that's like flow. That's an intensely difficult state to stay in, but it's flow's another whole. Flow's the best feeling in the world. But in theta, right as we're falling asleep, I have my athletes quietly, calmly, without any emotion behind it, pick an insane weight on whatever exercise they want to do. Let's just say deadlifts. I got a guy that's trying to get to 800 on deadlifts. I have him put 9 plates on the bar, like count it. So we're falling asleep and you're just standing over a bar. You're counting 9 plates. You see the 4 and then you see the 5. That's how I count them. And then you see the bar. You strap in and then you start pulling your reps. But you don't feel anything other than you're just pulling the reps. It's like 135. It doesn't mean anything. You see 9 or 10 plates on the side, you pull it. And this is normal. It's not exciting. It's normal. Because if you get excited, if you get psyched up, you kick yourself out of that state. So it has to be just plain old whatever. And then you do that over and over and over. And when you wake up, you do it again. And you just get your body to the point, or your subconscious to the point, where 9 plates on a bar is normal. Why wouldn't we lift that? We do that every freaking night, like literally. And getting to that point in real life, it's just a matter of putting in the time and the effort and building the structure. But there's no breaks holding it back. And it really works. The people who do this morning and night and really follow the program, it absolutely works every freaking time.
Interesting. That's an interesting one. Like, I know Jesse used to talk about, like, having, what was his one, like for like a static hold, that he was holding his family off of a cliff and he couldn't let go and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
those are your active
that's even more interesting.
Yeah.
This is even more incredible to me.
Well, that's that in the moment, like Eddie Hall talking about lifting a car off his kid or whatever. He says that's what he thought of when he deadlifted the 500 kilos, but he alluded to something different in an interview before that. So I think that's just what he went with, and it was really something way crazier. But that's just my guess. and when you're getting ready for a Hercules hold or something like that, holding your family, like life or death, holding on.
Yeah.
That's an active visualization, and it can absolutely help. It's not going to program your subconscious, though. It's going to help you fight in the moment when you're in that intensely, probably, I guess, beta state. Beta, maybe even into gamma if you're in flow, but very aware, stressed. You're not going to program the subconscious with that.
That's so interesting. I've never heard anyone talk about training that side of stuff before.
I wish that I had known it when I was younger. I kind of did it a little bit, but I didn't do it before bed and when I woke up. I didn't realize the importance of doing it then.
I would think about different things before bed, but it was more like, okay, I'm running a medley. What can go wrong? How can we fix it?
Yeah, and you stay in this excitable state almost. So you're visualizing and you're programming it, but it's a different level.
Almost on like the cusp of it.
That's a conscious programming. You're programming your conscious brain. And programming the unconscious, I mean, you've seen dreams. Dreams are chaos. Dreams are just absolutely wild. They don't make any sense, and they don't have to, because it's just memories getting plugged together or whatever dreams really are. But the subconscious is just that. It has to be more of a feeling, but in this case, it can't be too strong of a feeling that pulls you out of that programmable state. So it's a visual, and then like a tactile. You feel the 9 plates on the bar. You feel the bar. you feel that you're moving through it, and then visually you're connecting that feeling with the 9 plates. But yeah, if you're thinking about how to do a medley, then you're breaking down pieces, and then you're running through those pieces, and you're thinking, where could I go wrong? And as soon as you start thinking, that's higher thinking. Where can I go wrong? That's back into alpha.
Sure. So to wrap things up, we've got 2 questions to ask you.
All right.
The first being, do you think that everything you went through, from starting strongman to the meteoric rise, the pushing through the fucking downward spiral and everything, to where you are now, because you're doing good now. You're like, between all of the multiple businesses, coaching, all that sort of stuff, like, you're in a fantastic spot. Do you think that everything has been the cost of your greatness now? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Because
that's a question that can go
like,
excuse me.
Like, do you think life would be as, it's hard to say, but like would life be as good now if you hadn't gone through all the other stuff?
Probably
It would
not.
certainly be
I
different.
think that's probably a no. This struggle has given me a mindset that I wouldn't have learned any other way, because I'm a hard-headed sumbitch. And, if I would love to learn from other people's experiences, but I guess that's just not in the cards for me. I have to learn it the hard way. And then I'm hardwired to teach. I come from a long line of teachers and preachers and coaches. And so it's just innate within me. And I think because I can't learn from other people's experiences, but I want to teach other people, I have to learn them on my own. And so I think that, I heard a theory once that before we enter this life, whatever our consciousness is, picks it. And it's like, this is the life that I'm going to live, and it's an experience that it has before we move on to whatever next state. And whatever your beliefs are, it's an interesting concept. And I would love to have a conversation with myself, picking this fucking life. Like, what's your fucking problem, man? But I think everything that I've done, I've always been keenly aware. So there's 2 Travises. There's the Travis that does all the things, and then there's the one back here that takes notes. And I'm always very aware of this guy taking notes. And, like something will happen, and then Travis out here makes a stupid mistake. And this guy back here is like, well, that was interesting, and just fucking writes it down. So I have all these experiences that I remember really, really vividly. And, I'm able to draw upon those to teach other people. And I think, if we boil it down to purpose, that's one of my main purposes, is to teach people, maybe how to save them from themselves, or how to figure out what they want in life. And I think without all the experiences that I have, or that I've had, I wouldn't have any idea what that's like.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on with that one. And the last one, the single piece of advice to someone who's at rock bottom, like a single little thing that gets them to realize that you can get past wherever you are.
Was there's a couple things that helped me. Oddly enough, Winston Churchill said, if you're going through hell, keep going. And that always kind of stuck with me. Eventually you get somewhere else. But the most important piece of the puzzle is find gratitude and make a gratitude list and start focusing on the gratitude that you have, all the things that you can be grateful for. Because if you're busy looking for things to be grateful for, it is impossible to be negative about something at the same time. You cannot, those do not exist at the same time. It's like insulin and growth hormone endogenously. They cannot exist together. But the biggest thing, and this has kind of helped people, is a mindset, because people get stuck in their feelings on this, and they think they just want to be done. They don't want to They want to go on to whatever's next. They're sick of this life. It hurts. It's too
Sure.
hard. It's too whatever. And it's like, in all of existence, humanity has been here for the blink of an eye. You have been here for the initial jerk of that blink. Like, you haven't even finished the blink. You're just the thought that precedes the blink. That small of a time. And if consciousness is a thing that goes forever, whether it's in heaven, or if it's the next stage in life, or the next stage of existence on a different plane, whatever it is, I truly believe that consciousness, the energy, does not go away. It becomes some other form. And like I said, whether that's in heaven or some other place in space or whatever, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Stick it out here as long as you can and get everything you can from this experience. We're born with this wide array of emotions. I cannot imagine a life more boring than one that has not felt that entire spectrum. I think a lot of people, they live in here. Their highs are here, their lows are here. My highs have been here, my lows have been down here. My range is just, it's so freaking intense. And I think about, I've felt all of the emotions. The only one that I would love to feel is the one where I get to see my son again, because I think that'll be a different kind of joy that I haven't quite felt yet. And I think after that, it's just helping other people realize what's there, and then it's continuing to experience, because there's a lot of spots in between those highs and lows that I probably missed.
Yeah.
So milk everything out of the 80, 60 to 100 years, let's say, that you're here.
Yeah.
It's a short time. And if the older you get, just think back the last 10 years compared to your first 10 years. How much faster has the last 10 years gone?
Yep.
That's just going to keep happening. It's going to keep going like that. So you got to hang on to every second you can get, because it's, before you know it, you're 80. I talked to my dad. He's 80 years old, and he's training with me again, which is fucking awesome. But he still feels 25 like I do. I still feel like I can't be 44. What the hell is this?
Yeah.
And it's only from all the experiences that I have do I know that that's actually real, because I'm like, oh yeah, that would have taken about 44 years to happen. Maybe it's more like 70 years in some cases. But yeah, you just realize that you're only here for a short time, and keep trudging forward and know that something else is coming, because not every day, they can't be the same. Every day can't be the same forever. It will absolutely change.
Sure. Yeah. Dude, I love it. I love it. Milk it for what it is.
That's exactly it, man. Squeeze the juice out of it.
Yeah. Tell everyone where to find you if they want to get in touch, coaching, all that stuff.
Well, best place, I've got a website. It's TravisOrtmayer.com, or Texas Stoneman, or Texas-Stoneman. I haven't looked at it in a while, so I can't remember, but I got a link on my Instagram bio. Instagram's probably the best place to find me. Travis_Ortmayer, just my name. And if you do want to reach out for anything in particular, put a big capitalized word at the beginning that says coaching or whatever, and it will stand out, because I get a lot of messages and I don't want to miss something like that. But that's probably the best ways to reach out to me. And if you do go and send me an email from the website, check your spam, because a lot of my replies go into people's spam folder, and they think that I haven't responded, and I feel terrible about that. I don't know what to do to fix that. So
Technology again, dude.
yeah, man, I'm not big on it. Shit.
No, I get it. Well, hey, dude, thank you a ton for coming on. This has been one of the deepest episodes I think we've done. It's been, like they said, it sort of sums up your life, where we've had gone through all these highs, we've gone through all these lows. And I think the lessons that you can teach people are absolutely invaluable.
Well, and the older I get, the more I realize how much impact you have on other people's lives. I love telling people this story, because You told me after it was 2017 when I had come back, and you're like, "Hey, I run a little company called Cerberus. You want some stuff?" I was like, "Yeah," and you mentioned that it was something that we talked about that kind of steered you towards. We talked about it after the qualifying round of World's Strongest Man in 2011. We were shit faced at the hotel, and you said that it was something that in that conversation that steered you towards becoming a business owner and taking on this challenge that is Cerberus.
Mm-hmm.
And so I tell people that, yeah, it's my fault Ken did Cerberus. No, but just the impact that you get to have on people's lives, and especially in your position, because you have so interaction with so many people. It's really been a lot of fun to see how you've grown the brand, and how the sport has kind of come with it. And Cerberus is synonymous with strongman now, and I fucking love that, man. It's awesome.
I appreciate it, dude. No, hey, thank you for all the years of support from, the 16-year-old kid starting out strongman and talking about Rundy Muscle to now. It's been a hell of a last 2 decades.
That's seriously
more than that. Fuck. Shit. Well, hey, dude. No, thank you again. I honestly, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and taking the time to go through everything and just give your insights to people.
Yeah, man. Well, it's anywhere I can help, because if I can help somebody not have to go through the same shit that I went through, I'm not going to say that it's made it all worth it, but it definitely makes it easier to deal with.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. But hey, dude, thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Appreciate it.